All right, y'all, we're back again with more Black Sheep updates. We are here in the new race car room. We got Ben with the welder. We've been grinding away. Ben has been working on making the proper bracket to make this fuel pump fit in the car and on the motor with or down and forward facing headers. So for those guys that are out there that haven't been building like race cars and doing like a lot of more like one-off custom stuff, you run into this quite often. You get to a point where pretty much every part you purchase, you have to modify in some way to make it fit your application. So the oil pump here, as you can see, this is what it looks like off of the engine. So you got your belt drive, your oil pump, and then your fuel pump's driven off of it. This is probably like the best thing for fitting everything into the car. I know what you guys are saying, like, dude, you had a Hemi in there, there's probably a bunch of room, but there's really not that much room. We're limited in room going off of the front of the balancer. We actually put a shorter balancer that fits closer to the front cover on there to help gain some room. So by adding a mandrel off the front of it, that would defeat the purpose. So this one right here, it's still driven off of the back of the balancer, which is what we need, and it's almost identical location to the Motion Raceworks fuel pump drive, which we have sitting right over there, which worked absolutely great. Super compact. It sits low enough to where you can run the down and forward facing headers, but not too low where it gets into like the K-member or sits like below the oil pan where you have to worry about like, hey, if I wheelie, I'm just gonna knock my fuel pump off. So now we're in the process of, we got the brackets that we need modified and they are going to work. So we got everything in the proper location. The next thing is get the proper belt size. So they use these just like a regular timing belt. Like, I don't know if you guys can hear Ben over there. They go by teeth. We're limited on how we can tension it, so we're really just gonna have to probably order 2 or 3 belts and get the right size and then be like, hey, that fits perfect. Because the teeth on this are so aggressive, you don't have to have a lot of belt tension on it. It just really needs to like ride in there where everything fits up good. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna clean up the engine bay and get everything ready. So once we get the fuel pump stuff on there, we're gonna be good to set the transmission in the car. The converter's already put together, put the converter in the car, and then set the engine in there. We got stuff coming back from Joe at Dieter's Custom Finishing and Jacobson Welding and Powder Coating. We're getting stuff back from there. So he did some trick stuff on the headers and we got everything all shined up. Like I said, we have a new turbo coming in from Force Inductions, but as of right now, we're going to put the sheet back together the way it is, plus this new fuel pump, oil pump configuration, and then we'll be good to go. The next thing we do once we get all this stuff on there is we have to make lines. One of the benefits of running that factory-style oil pump is you don't have to run any oil lines. You can run a stock-style filter on the filter housing being on the oil pan. Now everything's going to be remote mount filter, so we're going to have to mount that, run oil lines to that, and then we're going to have lines run from the tank to the oil pump, from the oil pump to the filter, from the filter back into the engine block. So yeah, like I said, room not being what we have the most of, we're definitely gonna have to be creative, but I don't think that'll be an issue. So fuel pump on there, this thing's badass. Check out Aviade. They make all the LS fuel pump, LS oil pump drives, and this one happens to have a fuel pump drive off there. So this setup is the Aviade oil pump, and we got an Enderley 110, their cast pump, 18 gallon a minute hanging off the back of it, so we'll have plenty of fuel. So let's run over here, we'll check out what Ben's doing, and then we'll get to work on the car. Welding that sucker up. Looking at it, you wouldn't say, damn, that's a fuel pump bracket, but damn, that's a fuel pump bracket.
That's it. Not the prettiest ever, but...
Well, we're not going for pretty, we're going for functional here. And that's all that we need. So pretty much, as you can see, this is where the factory bracket location was, and we moved it down that much. And then that's the top one where bolts on the 2. It goes like that. So bolts on both bosses of the engine block, and then it drops it down 3 inches. So we're 3 inches lower, and we're in line with everything before. So we should be good there.
Straight down 3 inches. That's it.
Welding the shit out of that flat stock steel.
Here it is.
All right, I know what you guys are saying. You're like, dude, why are you like wiping down the car with brake clean? If you guys remember, the last time we had the car out, we had an issue, made a pass with the oil cap off, and it spewed oil everywhere. So there's like oil absolutely all over the car. It was in the car, it was on the frame rail, it was on the bottom of the car, it was everywhere. So we cleaned it up to the best of our ability, but at the time, but there's still shit everywhere. So starting off fresh, that oil, if you just leave it sitting there, it gets super dirty and looks gross and grimy. So wiped it all up. We did find that the oil feed line had some sort of fire damage on it. I mean, that is not good. So we're gonna replace the oil feed line. We have to replace the oil feed line anyways, because before it was coming out the side of the pan right there where the filter housing was. I think it's gonna come from somewhere else now, whether we have to tap the block somewhere, but the old pan, don't know where it went, has everything on it. So it had your filter housing and it had your oil feed. So obviously not an option anymore, so we're going to have to get our oil feed for the turbo somewhere else. So got the engine bay cleaned up. Now it doesn't look great, the paint's kind of beat up, but it's a race car. When you set the motor in there, you don't really get caught looking at this stuff, you get caught looking at the motor, especially with all the bling from Joe at Divas Custom Finishing. So next, we'll put the fuel pump back on there and we'll get it set in. We'll put the motor plate on it and we'll start setting everything in the car. All right, well, Ben's finishing up on the fuel pump bracket. I'm gonna start working on the oil pan. And as you can see here, we kind of marked off where the main studs were hitting. So these back two main stud bolts right here on the dart block are very close to where the pan rail would be. And as you can see on this pan rail, it's pretty far forward. So I'm hoping if I can just notch it just a little bit and be ever so careful. You don't want to go too far down, because then you'll actually just knock the aluminum pan, like you'll blow a hole, you'll blow its back right out. So we're going to try to just take a little bit off the rail on each side and see how that works. So I'm going to get a die grinder and we're going to start grinding away. All right, y'all, so here it is. As you can see, it's cut out pretty good there. Just got the pan all cleaned out, and I think everything looks pretty good. So yeah, that seems clear. It's got a little dent right here. I'm trying to figure out what that's from. I want to say it's not hitting the counterweight of the crank, but could be. So we're gonna bolt it on there, spin the motor over, and just mock it up. It's got a windage tray we're gonna bolt on there, and hopefully, fingers crossed, everything's good, and then we can proceed. So I think I got most all of the shavings out of there. Spray it down brake clean and stick it on there and see how it works. All right, y'all, we got the fuel pump on there. Brackets are all done. Looks good. Clears motor plate. So hell yeah, everything's good there. I think we're getting ready to throw transmission in, and it's gonna be a wrap on today's video.